Dear friends, welcome to our Turkish Foreign Policy sessions. Today we have a guest lecturer from Cyprus, Professor Dr. Atun. As I told in the email, he has a unique experience and information related with the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus. He has experience both in field and academia, so it will be a great chance to listen him today. So floor is yours, Professor Ata. Thank you for coming and accepting our invitation to our class.
Thank you very much, Hocam, Şuay Hocam. Thanks a lot. I am honored to meet with the foreign policy students. Great. It's a very great topic. I like it. I love it very much. Actually, I've got two PhDs, and one of them is civil engineering, and the other one is international relations. So my favorite is, of course, international relations. I was almost born in it from the age of 26. I am within the foreign policy. So you will have definitely some new information, some new idea, some new vision towards Cyprus after this meeting, after this presentation. Anyway, while I'm talking, if you want to ask me questions, you can send me messages. I opened up the message section. So when you type, I will see it definitely. Okay, I'll start from the beginning. The topic is Cyprus. We'll talk today only from the Cyprus, from the past, today, and the problems we faced and the problems you heard. And you will understand what happened in the past and what's going on today and what may happen in the future. Cyprus is the third largest island in the Mediterranean after Sicily and Sardinia. The distance from northern Cyprus to Turkey is only 65 kilometers. To Syria is 112, to Israel 267, to Lebanon 162 kilometers. The distance from the south of Cyprus to Egypt is 418, and of course, very interesting, the distance from Cyprus to Greece is 965 kilometers. Look at the distances between Turkey, 65, and to Greece, 965. It's 900 kilometers more, but they have a direct connection. They claim they've got a direct connection with the island of Cyprus. If you start the period until 1571, the capture of the island by the Ottoman Empire, almost 13 nations governed the island. Mycenae, Phoenicians, it's on the eastern part of the Cyprus, Phoenicians, it's on the north of Lebanon. Assyrians, ancient Egyptians, Persians, Macedonians, Romans, Byzantines, Muslim Arabs, Mamluks, they ruled Cyprus for almost more than 100 years. And British, Richard the Lionheart, the Lusignans, Genoese, and Venetians, almost everybody was in Cyprus because the position, the location is very strategic. The island of Cyprus, even today, it was 2,000 years before, the situation of Cyprus was very strategic, the location, and still it is. It's a very interesting island. Some parts of the island, if you check the island, some parts of the Shakespeare's famous tragedy, Othello, takes place in Famagusta, Cyprus. I'm from Famagusta. I was born in Famagusta, actually. I know it's stone by stone, this place. The Othello Tower was built by the Lusignans in the 14th century. The current name of the castle began to be used during the British era. Over the entrance of the castle, there is the relief of St. Mark's Lion. St. Mark's Lion is this one. It's a lion with a crown on the head. Very interesting. Venetians, when they capture a city or a state or a town, they immediately place this St. Mark's plaque to the entrance of the cities, to the entrance door of the castles. Very interesting. And we have a pillar in the center of Nicosia. On the top, there is this St. Mark's lion in 3 dimensions on top of this pillar. The map of Cyprus issued by the Ottoman Empire ruled the island between 1571 to 1878. This is a very typical original map. Actually, the very correct map of Cyprus was drawn by Piri. Before, the shape of the Cyprus island in the European maps, it was like a turtle. You wouldn't believe it was like a turtle. This is the second issue of the Piri map, and this is the very first map which shows exactly the shores of the Cyprus island as it is. Artifacts from the 307-year-old Ottoman period on the island. Artifacts means tarihi eser. The Great Han, Nicosia, it was built in 1572 by the Muzaffer Pasha. He was the governor of Nicosia, the first governor of Cyprus of the Ottoman period. So he built this Han. On the ground floor, actually, under these arches, there is a passage, all the way passage. And when the visitors, they come to Nicosia and they want to reside or stay at night in Nicosia, they actually tie their horses or donkeys in this ground floor under the arches, and the bedrooms are on the top. It's very interesting. If you visit one day, I would advise you to come and see it. It's very, very Ottomanish plan, very Ottomanish architecture. The Arab Ahmed Mosque, 17th century, by Arab Ahmed Pasha, who was also the governor of Cyprus, built at the beginning of the 17th century. This is also very interesting mosque. I like it. Sometimes I visit on the Fridays. The Nami Kemal dungeon, you all know him, who he is, the most famous poet in our history, in our educational history, literature. And Nami Kemal's Vatan or Silistri was played at the Gedik Pasha Theater in Istanbul on April 9, 1873. He was then deported to Cyprus on April 5 on 1873. He stayed here about 3 years, and this was his dungeon. This is the dungeon here. Probably you can see it. And he was in the ground floor first, then later on he was granted with a room upstairs. And he has not very good memories from Famagusta. The British era, 1878 to 1959, or we may say 1960. It's about 82 years. The Great Britain rent the island on June 4, 1878 by signing a rental agreement with the Ottoman Empire. Actually, in the history books, it says signing a rental agreement, but in fact, the British invaded the island because it was in their foreign policy. As from 1834, the then captain, Benjamin Israeli, he was in the British Army. He was ordered to visit Middle East and write a report on 1834. So he came to Istanbul. Then he visited Izmir, from Izmir to Antalya, then to Mersin, then to Hatay, then to Tripoli of Syria, then to Beirut, then to Haifa and Cairo. And he went back. When he went back to London again, actually what he did is he wrote a report. He said, Cyprus is the key of the Middle East. If any state, if any government wants to rule the Middle East, he should or she should own, occupy, and rule the island of Cyprus. And after 20 years, he became the Prime Minister of Great Britain. And it was about 1860s, so it means 30 years. After 30 years, he became the Prime Minister. And the first item he put down in the foreign policy of the British Empire that the Cyprus should be obtained under any conditions. Whether you invade, you rent, you buy, whatever it is. In 1878, the Russian-Ottoman War was the biggest chance for the British to get hold of the island. So, on the June 4, 1878, with the promise to help the Ottoman Empire to stop the Russian army, they advanced till the Atatürk airport in Istanbul. It was very short, 20 minutes by ride, by car, 20 minutes away from the Babi Ali, the center of the Ottoman Empire. So to stop the Russians to invade, to get hold of the capital of the Ottoman Empire, British interfered with the payment of the Cyprus island. So actually we are always told that it is rented, but actually Britain invaded the island. Anyway, I'll proceed. The Great Britain annexed Cyprus after declaring war on the Ottoman Empire on November 5, 1914. So from 1878 to 1914, it was said that rented by the British Empire, but on the November 5, the British Empire hold of the island, and they send a note to the Ottoman Empire that as from 5th of November, the island belongs to the British Empire and it has no connection at all with the Ottoman Empire. The Greek population from Greece appointed to the existing post of the Turkish Cypriots in the government. Actually, this is very important. During this period from 1878 to 1959, during this period, actually in 1905, 1907, and as from 1914, the population changes began on the island. Around 20,000 Turks migrated to Anatolia. They refused to live under the British governance, and the Greek population was transferred to the island from Greece, from Egypt, and from the Lebanon. The Orthodox people, they were asked to immigrate to Cyprus, and suddenly the balance of the population changed the island. Before, the Greeks were minority, and suddenly they became the majority of the island. And after the 20,000 Turks migrated to Turkey. In 1931, the Greek Cypriots rebelled against the British administration for enosis. Enosis is a Greek word. It means annexation to the Greeks, joining to the Greece, annexation to the Greece. Taking actions up to the burning of the governor's mansion. Mansion means house, home, residence, and the car. Actually, this is the sign, the flag of Enosis. This is the map. This is the flag of EOKA. Actually, it's as you've seen, it's a white cross on blue, and the center there is a map of Cyprus Island. The map of Megali Idea. This is how it is written in Greek. I don't know if anybody knows Greek among yourself. This is MEG. This is the upside down L shape. This is GAL. L is upside down V, and H is I. So it is Megali Idea. You know the delta from mathematics probably. And it means the great idea, büyük ülkü. Enosis, which literally means annexation, has been on the agenda since 1791, when the Megali Idea map was drawn by Rigas Feros. It was his idea, actually, Rigas Feros's idea, the Megali Idea, and he drew the map in Vienna. Let me see if I mentioned it. No, he issued the map in Vienna on 1796. He has been on the agenda. The annexation and the Megali Idea it was in the agenda of Rigas Feros. The meaning of the word of the great idea envisioned the retaking of Istanbul, or the Constantinopolis in Greek, the creation of the Hellenic Empire. The Hellenic Empire is actually the green, the yellow part, the islands. These are called 7 islands. It was in they are on the Adriatic Sea, and Dodeganose, the 12 islands, Dodeganisi in Greek, here, and the green parts, actually it is the western part of Anatolia, Cyprus, Crete, and Rhodes is included, and the northern parts of Turkey. This is called the megali idea, the big dream of the Greeks. And the creation of the Hellenic Empire. The name would be, if they manage one day, its name will be the Hellenic Empire. Lands up to the Greece, Crete, Rhodes, Cyprus, Anatolia, and Alexandria, where Alexander the Great lay. Alexandria, İskenderiye'dir biliyorsunuz. Between 1931 and 1950, the Greek Cypriots increased their demand for enosis. This is a rally showing a meeting, a rally in Nicosia, early 1950s. It is written here, Zido e enosis. It means long live enosis in Greek. Makarios, in 1950, the public referendum, it is called plebiscite. It's a unilateral referendum. Usually the referendum in Cyprus, the referendums are held by the two communities, Greeks and Turks, but this one held unilaterally by the Greeks only. The Makarios, the metropolitan of Kitium at the time, it was in 1948, led a popular vote in the Orthodox churches in 1950 in order to create an element of pressure to achieve independence from the British. This is the first plebiscite held in Cyprus. 95% of the Greeks voted in favor of enosis. Actually, he was elected in the November of 1950, and the plebiscite held in January 15 and January 22, 1950. So it was before about something like before 10 months, he was elected as the Archbishop of Cyprus. This was a very funny plebiscite, actually. See, as I said, he was elected on the October of 1950. I'll go back to the plebiscite. It was a very funny plebiscite because the voting was open. So everybody entered the church who was willing to vote. Actually, on the 15th, less than half of the Greeks, they joined the voting. So church extended, the Greek Orthodox Church extended the plebiscite period for a further 1 week from the 15th to the 22nd of January 1950. And on the second Sunday, most of the people, they were forced to join the plebiscite. When they entered the church, the voting place was in all over the Cyprus in the Orthodox churches, and they had to write their name in the book, open name, surname, and sign, and say yes. If they don't say yes and they write no, they will actually be kicked out. They will be kicked out from the Orthodox Church. So everybody voted yes, and the counting of the votes were closed. Only the monks and the priests, they counted the votes. Nobody see them, nobody saw them, nobody was the witness of the counting. And actually, it was very funny for me. You know who voted for what, and you don't know the number of the votes. Actually, this was how it was held. Makarios was ordained Archbishop on 18 October 1950 by Enosis propaganda and was appointed Archbishop. He was vowed never to deviate from his ambition to annex to the island of Greece. So this is very interesting also. I'll just mark it. It was, make it red. I'll make it red. Actually, he prayed, and he also vowed twice. One was national vow, and the other one was religious law. For the Archbishop, he said he will be the Archbishop and he will obey the rules of the Greek Orthodox Church and Christianity and everything. But the national vow was totally different. He said he deviated from his ambition. He will never deviate from his ambition to annex the island to Greece. So it said he he would work for all of his life. He would devote his life for the enosis, for the annexation of the island to the Greece. And he actually kept his promise. I will tell you when he died and when he died, why he died. The General Grievous founded the terrorist organization EOKA on April 1st, 1955. The EOKA means Ethniki Organizos Kypriagon Agoniston. It means national. Ethniki is national organization. Cypriot, Kypriagon, Cypriot, the fighters. Agoniston is the fighters. So EOKA means the National Cypriot Fighters Organization in English, in perfect English. Armed Hellenic terror organization established for the annexation of Cyprus to Greece. So he was the Grievous was the commander of the EOKA. The EOKA was not just an independence movement against the British. In fact, it aimed to annex the island to Greece by gunpoint, by killing and by terror. They aimed to connect the island, to annex the island to Greece. In order to ensure the defense of the Turkish people from the armed attacks of the EOKA, the Turkish people of Cyprus against the Greek ambitions of Enosis, and to prevent the island from being annexed to Greece, the Turkish Cypriots immediately organized. The title of the page was Organizing the Turkish Cypriots Against Greek Cypriot Armed Attacks. So the Turkish Cypriots were forced to be organized to stop the attacks of the EOKA. Their aim was to kick out the British, to kill the Turkish Cypriots and annex the island to Greece. Turkish Cypriots immediately established their counter-organization titled 9 September Front, 9 Eylül Cephesi. They were encouraged from the Izmir. You know, the Turkish army entered the Izmir on September 9, 1922. So they were initiated from this entry of the Turkish army to Izmir on the September 9. It's called 9 September Front and Volcano, the volcan, to oppose to the Greek Cypriot armed attacks. In August 1, 1958, the Turkish Cypriots established their counter-organization TMT, Türk Mukavemet Teşkilatı, Turkish Resistance Organization against the Greek Cypriot armed attacks. Turkish Resistance Organization, TMT, Türk Mukavemet Teşkilatı, took over the defense of the Turkish Cypriot people and fought for the bloc to annexation of the Cyprus island to Greece. The resistance to the Greek armed attacks, since its establishment, the TMT has not organized offensive actions, has taken on the task of protecting the Turkish Cypriots from Greek attacks. The Taksim participation principle has been adopted by the Turkish Cypriot side as the most logical solution against enosis. It was 1958. Actually, it was realized on 1974, something like 16 years later. The Taksim was the most logical solution to the Cyprus issue, and it was put in force on 1958. Greece has twice put the Cyprus issue on the agenda of the UN. The Greece transferred its request for enosis to the United Nations on 1954 and 1957. The UN General Assembly has stated that the parties must resolve their disputes through negotiations, and the UN dismissed the request of the Greece for the annexation. This gentleman is Faiz Kaymak, the Turkish Cypriot delegation headed by Faiz Kaymak. He is one of the noble people among the Turkish Cypriots. He visited Turkey on 1954 upon the Greece's submission of their request of enosis to the United Nations in 1954. The Turkish Cypriot delegation went to Turkey in September 1954. It was headed by Faiz Kaymak, the Honorable Faiz Kaymak, Allah rahmet eylesin, went to Turkey in September 1954 to let know the Turkish government their participation request and ideal. The Fuat Köprülü, Minister of Foreign Affairs of the period, he said, the Turkish Foreign Minister Fuat Köprülü stated that we do not have a Cyprus issue. Bizim Kıbrıs meselemiz yoktur dedi Faiz Kaymak. There is no issue related to Cyprus. This will not happen. Cyprus is a crown colony of the United Kingdom. This is an internal issue. The intercommunal fights, he said, Fuat Köprülü said, it is an international issue and they are not interested. No external intervention is available. We do not interference to the situation in Cyprus. I shall mark it as blue and we'll read again. This is very important. Look, the minister, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Dışişleri Bakanı, Fuat Köprülü, he says there is no issue related to Cyprus. Kıbrıs'la ilgili hiçbir konu yoktur. This will not happen. Bu olmayacaktır. Cyprus is a crown colony of the United Kingdom. Kıbrıs kraliyet ailesinin bir parçasıdır. Büyük Britanya İmparatorluğu'nun kraliyet topraklarıdır. This is internal issue. Bu bir iç meseledir. No external intervention is available. Dıştan müdahale olmayacaktır. We do not interference to the situation in Cyprus. Biz Kıbrıs'taki olaylara hiçbir zaman karışmayacağız. Bakın ne kadar kısa görülü bir it was a very short-sighted Minister of Foreign Affairs, and it did not happen like this. The speech of Selim Sarper, he was the chief permanent delegate of Turkey in the UN. The UN addressed the Cyprus issue on 14 December 1954. The Turkish representative Selim Sarper gave a speech at the Political Commission criticizing Greece's policy in line with ENOS's and explaining the importance of the island of Cyprus for Turkey. The foreign minister says something else and Selim Sarper says something different because the island was important to Turkey. In his speech on 1957, Selim Sarper demanded that the Greece stop supporting terrorist acts on the island and that the Greek government's annexation request be rejected. The Greek representative defended the ENOS's thesis under the guise of the self-determination, threatening that the Greece would leave NATO if these views were not accepted. This was in 1957. Look at the threat. The Greece says we leave NATO if you don't accept annexation. Yani adanın Yunanistan'a bağlantısını kabul etmezseniz biz NATO'dan çıkarız diye tehdit ediyor. Cesarete bakın. Remember the pillar I told you in the beginning? This is the picture of the Venetian pillar, and this is actually the sign on the top is the sign of the St. Mark's Island lion on the top. It is in the center of Nicosia, center of the Sarayoni Square. If you ever visit, please go and see it. The Turkish Cypriot people continue their struggle to get Turkey's support without hesitation. This is one of the rallies that the people continue their struggle to get Turkey's support. Turkey still did not support the Turkish Cypriots on their struggle against Enosis. In 1958, the Greek attacks against Turkish Cypriots continued without interruption. This is a Turkish Cypriot who was shot dead by the EOKA terrorists in 58. Attacks of the British colonial police forced the Turkish Cypriots on January 28, 28 on 1958. On the 27th of January, the Turkish Cypriots, they gather in the Saray Meydanı, the Saray Square in Nicosia, and it was a very big rally, and they protested the British government that they are supporting the Greeks and they don't prevent They don't protect the Turkish Cypriots, and about 4 people were died in this rally shot by the British police. The Britain accepted that the island had belonged to the Turkish Cypriots and Greek Cypriots. It was the first time they declared this jointly, long before Britain ended its sovereignty over the island. In the year 56 and 58, the UK Parliament approved the fact that 2 equal communities had the right to self-determination. It was only on 58 and 58, the House of Commons, actually the House of Commons, the UK Parliament is called House of Commons in English, you would know probably. The first time ever they approved that there are 2 equal communities on the island. I'm sorry, yes, we are here. On August 16, the Republic of Cyprus was established after the long negotiations on 1958, 59, and 1960, in accordance with the agreements and the treaties signed at Zurich and February 11, 1959, and at London on February 16, 1959. The 2 equal peoples of Cyprus were 2 of the 5 parties that negotiated the 1959-1960 agreements, and finally the Republic of Cyprus was declared, accepted by the United Nations, and it was declared on the 16th August 1960. The Republic of Cyprus was neither a unitary nor a nation state. It was built up or created by 2 communities existing on the island, and 3 minorities, Armenians and Nestorians and the Catholics. So there were three minorities and 2 communities establishing the island. The gentleman here is late Makarios. This is Sir Hugh Foot, the governor of the island at then, and this gentleman here is Dr. Fazıl Küçük, the late Dr. Fazıl Küçük, Allah rahmet eylesin. They all 3 signed the Declaration of the Republic of Cyprus. The Republic of Cyprus was a functional federation based on mutual and equal partnership. This is the House of Representatives, the Parliament of the Republic of Cyprus, and this is again the same picture, not the same picture, the same instance, probably taken after a couple of minutes, while the first one is while Dr. Küçük is, no, the governor was signing here, and the second picture is while Makarios is signing the declaration. The main elements of the 1960 Constitution, this is very important. You should all keep it in mind when you remember Cyprus issue. The president to be Greek, vice president to be Turkish, and each chosen by 2 separate communities separately. Both have separate veto rights. The member of the House of Representatives to be elected by 2 communities in the same day, but in the different regions, in their own regions. The communal chambers, meclisler, cemaat meclisleri, have separate legislative and executive power in religion, education, culture, and teaching. There was a House of Representatives, the main parliament. Underneath, there were two more parliaments, the communal chambers or communal parliaments. And these communal parliaments, they had the right to pass bills in religion, education, culture, and teaching. The communal chambers, cemaat meclisleri, had the right to taxation and collect taxes. The separate Turkish and Greek municipalities in the 5 major cities of the island, ensuring representation from both communities in central government, legislative, judicial, and executive bodies. These issues constitute the inalterable articles of the Constitution, so nobody could change them. In accordance with the 1960 agreements, 2 military bases were allowed to be established by the United Kingdom in the island. The blue one is Akrotiri, and the blue one is Dikelia, and the red one was Akrotiri. Actually, this map shows the division of the island after 1974, but the British bases are kept the same. This is Akrotiri and this is Dikelia. In accordance with the 1960 agreements, 2 military bases were allowed to be established by the United Kingdom in the island. The total area of the Akrotiri and Dikelia British bases is 254 square kilometers. Population of the British bases, Turkish Cypriots and Greeks 7,000, they work in the bases. The British military personnel and their families 7,500. The total of the population is 14,500. Actually, the British bases is the third independent country in the island of Cyprus. It is registered to the United Nations as a state, and the president of the state is the higher ranking armed officer. When you check the CIA's list of states, the Akrotiri is on the very top. Akrotiri state is on the very top. Actually, everybody knows, everybody thinks that there are 2 states now in Cyprus, which is the Greek state and the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, but actually the third one is the British bases state, Akrotiri state. The Akrotiri and the Dikelia British bases, there is an excellent, very big airport, air base in Akrotiri, and United States, when they need to bomb Middle East or Libya or Egypt or other Arab countries, they use this Akrotiri base to keep their bombs and fighters, and they fly from this base to bomb on 1991, 1992 Iraq. So it is very important for the Western countries, these bases. In accordance with the 1960 agreements, on August 16, 1960, the Turkish regiment set foot on the island. This is according to the Cyprus constitution. This is the Turkish regiment. I saw it with my own eyes on 16 August 1960 when they were setting foot on the port of Famagusta. In accordance with the 1960 agreements, the arrival of the Turkish regiment to the port of Famagusta in 1960, August 16, these people are all Turkish Cypriots. I am among these people here on the top because it was very easy for me to go there rather than this one. And this is Famagusta, entry of the port. The elderly Turkish Cypriots, very interesting picture. The elderly Turkish Cypriots who had witnessed the Ottoman troops leaving the island on 1878 and their return after 82 years in August 16, 1960. This 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 Turkish Cypriot elderly people, they saw the Ottoman army leaving, and they witnessed with their own bare eyes the arrival of the Turkish troops to the island again after 82 years. The Makarios did not hesitate to express that he would use the Partnership Republic as a springboard to achieve enosis. In his addressing to the Greek Cypriots, he said, "Our hopes and ambitions are not fully realized. From conquered castles, we will continue to fight for the final victory, the enosis." So he was hoping that one day he will manage to annex the island to Greece. Actually, this is on probably not 16 of August 1960, but 17 of August 1960, when Makarios and Dr. Küçük, the president and the vice president, they're saluting the Turkish regiment, arrived one day before to the Cyprus, according to the constitution. Suggestion of Makarios to amend the 13 items of the constitution, giving partnership rights to Turkish Cypriots. Makarios' 13-point proposal aimed at reducing the Turkish Cypriots to a minority position, not founding partners, but a minority like Armenians, Latins, and the Maronites. Also included the inalterable articles of the Constitution that cannot be changed. The most important of these was the article on the abolition of the veto rights of the president and the vice president. Actually, what he did, he first submitted these changes to Dr. Küçük and Rauf Denktaş. Makarios presented the 13 points of amendment in the Constitution of the Republic of Cyprus to the Vice President, Dr. Küçük, on November 30, 1963. Makarios's amendment proposals were rejected by the Turkish Cypriots immediately, even without thinking. They said no, Dr. Fazıl Küçük and Rauf Denktaş. On December 16, after 1 month and 13 days, 1963, Makarios went to Turkey and presented the same proposal to the then Prime Minister İsmet İnönü. Makarios's approval was also rejected by Turkish government 5 days after on Makarios's return to Ireland on 21st of December 1963. The armed phase of the Akritas plan was put on force. Turkey also rejected his proposals. He said, no, the Cyprus Republic is founded by Turkish Cypriots and the Greek Cypriots, and the Turkish Cypriots will all have the equal founding rights. The main concept of the Akritas plan, where it was put in force on the 21st of December, the Makarios thought that since he couldn't manage to force Turkish Cypriots and Turkey to accept his amendments, he said he will manage it by gunpoint. The path of self-determination and enosis will be opened by getting rid of the 1960 treaties. If the Turks resist, the Turkish people will be dispersed and crushed immediately. Lafın büyüklüğüne bakın. Yok edilecekler ve derhal Kıbrıslı Türkler ezilecekler. And forcibly, without causing foreign intervention. Dış müdahalelere izin vermeden zorla askeri saldırılarla Kıbrıslı Türkler susturulacak. Hayal gücü çok büyük. If the conflicts become widespread and prolonged, Turkish society will be destroyed. Yok edilecek. Immediately, derhal. The island will be annexed to Greece. Adada Yunanistan'a bağlanacak. When the amendment proposal was rejected, the Greeks attacked the Turks from all possible fronts on December 21, 1963, called the Bloody Christmas. In a short time, the Greek Cypriots expelled their Turkish Cypriot partners at gunpoint. Namlu gücüyle veya silah zoruyla demek gunpoint, from all organs of the government and captured the state. Bütün devlet dairelerinden Türkleri silah zoruyla atarak devlete zorla el koydular. The Greek Cypriot EOKA terrorist Nikos Samson, in his victory parade, holding a Turkish flag after mass killing of Turkish Cypriots and destroying the Küçük Kaymaklı region of Nicosia on the December 24, 1963. Look at the English newspaper, the Daily Mirror, published in London in December 24, 1963. This is humanity, the headline was, and atrocity. Very nice headline. This is the Hürriyet newspaper, December 23, 1963. EOKA terror organization in Cyprus increased their assaults. Milliyet, Turkish Cypriots residing at Greek Cypriot sectors started immigrating to save Turkish Cypriots. Rum semtindeki Türkler göçe başladı. 30,000 Turkish Cypriots, they immigrated to the safe places. Imagine you leave behind your house, your memories, your belongings, your everything, and you just immigrate to a place where you don't have any house and nothing. You live in a tent with no electricity, no water, no road, no schools, nothing, no food. Intercommunal armed clashes in Cyprus getting to be a civil war. Gunfire to the residence of the Vice President Dr. Fazıl Küçük. You can read Turkish here. Fazıl Küçük'ün ikametgahına da ateş edildi. Bu kadar pervasız. After this massacre, which was called Bloody Christmas on 25th December 1963, warplanes belonging to the Turkish Air Force made warning flights, and then a truce barış demek, was reached. On December 2, 1963, the British troops in the island set foot on the buffer zone, ara bölge demektir, buffer zone, between the two communities, which is called Green Line today. On December 30, 1963, after 9 days, the attacks of the Greeks, the commission consisting of Turkish, Greek, British, Greek Cypriots and Turkish Cypriot delegates determined the Green Line. The British Major General Peter Young drew the Green Line on the map with a green oily pencil. Look, this is the map of Nicosia. These are the walls, the great walls built by the Venetians, and this is the Green Line. So the island was not divided into two on 1974, but it was divided into two on December 30, 1963, and the map was drawn by the Major General Peter Young, the British Major General Major General Peter Young. So the Greek propaganda, it's a big lie that the island was divided into two on 1974. It's not true. Island was divided on 1963. I have a meeting at 12, so I have to stop now. I am on the 58th slide. There are a further 101. The total is 101, so it means there are a further 42 slides, which in the next weeks, when Şuay Hoca asks me again, I shall present you the remaining 42 slides. And now it is the question asking time. If you have any questions, I would be very happy to give you answers. It's only 5 minutes left. On 12, I have a meeting.
Hocam, thanks for the presentation. It was a quite comprehensive lecture on the Cyprus issue. I would like to use my advantage as a Hoca to ask first question to you. I would like to ask much more last policies and last developments in the island. How do you see the changing Turkish foreign policy paradigm in last 2 years related with the Cyprus issue and along with the last informal Geneva meeting?
Geneva talks. Yes.
Exactly.
Yes. Thank you very much, Şuay Hocam. It was an informal meeting on Cyprus, began in Geneva on Tuesday, with the UN chief seeking common ground for the resumption of the talks to find a lasting solution, the decades-old Cyprus dispute, Cyprus issue. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres hoped that the parties will come to the meeting in Geneva with creative ideas. They were fed up with the federation idea for the past 58 years. This call of Guterres is in line with the Turkish side's attitude toward bringing new ideas to the table. After the opening of the talks, Guterres held separate meetings with the leaders of the Turkish and Greek Cypriots. It was the first day at night time, in the evening time. Ersin Tatar, the president of the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, called his meeting with Guterres productive and said his side conveyed its views on the dispute to the UN chief. Turkish Foreign Minister Mevlüt Çavuşoğlu, Greek Foreign Minister Nikos Dendias, and the UK Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab are the leading delegates of the guarantor countries. The plenary session of the talks started on Tuesday, April 27, and lasted till the night of Thursday, April 29. Cyprus has been mired in a decades-long struggle between the Greek and Turkish Cypriots, despite a series of diplomatic efforts by the United Nations to achieve a comprehensive settlement. It was not possible to achieve this settlement, long-lasting, comprehensive settlement. The island has been divided since 1964, remember the map, when ethnic attacks forced Turkish Cypriots to withdraw into enclaves for their safety. In 1974, a Greek Cypriot coup aiming at Greece's annexation led to the Turkey's military intervention as a guarantor power. The Turkey got this power from the Constitution of Cyprus, and Turkey was allowed to intervene if there was a change in the statehood. The TRNC was founded in 1983. The Greek Cypriot administration, backed by Greece, became a member of the European Union in 2004, although most Greek Cypriots rejected a UN settlement plan in a referendum that year. It was called the Annan Plan, which had envisaged a reunited Cyprus joining the European Union. The Turkish Cypriot side put on the table the new vision of the two states based on sovereign equality and cooperation during the meeting and defended the idea. It was the first time, new vision, the two states based on sovereign equality. This is the Turkish side's new plan, which was put in Geneva on the table. Greece and the Greek Cypriot side continue to insist that the solution in Cyprus will be achieved through the federation model, which has been negotiated for more than half a century, 58 years, and has not yielded any results. The Greek side argues that the negotiations should continue where they left off during the Crown-Montana talks in 2017. The Turkish side emphasizes that this is impossible and they are fed up, and that the talks in Geneva will decide on what is to be negotiated from now onwards. The island's other guarantor, British Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab, also touched on his country's position regarding the unofficial conference during this visit to Cyprus in the last February, stating that the UN-led conference was an opportunity to benefit both communities and increase regional stability in Cyprus. The Foreign Minister Raab emphasizes that they will play their role as a country in helping resolve the Cyprus issue. Preliminary UN talks on Cyprus reunification have broken up, with the two sides further apart than before they began. At the end of the efforts, the Guterres said, at the end of our efforts, we have not yet found enough common ground to allow for the resumption of formal negotiations in relation to the settlement of the Cyprus problem. He said this on the April 29, on the closing date. And he said, at the end of the efforts, we tried a lot. Our efforts, we have not yet found enough common ground to allow for the resumption of the formal negotiations. So the formal negotiations will not start. A collapse in these talks could result in renewed ideas and solutions to the Cyprus negotiations. Guterres said on closing day, on the very last day, on Thursday, he said, I do not give up. Another mini summit could take place in the next 2 or 3 months. So he still has a small light in the future. He sees a very small light in the future that the negotiations may start. As from today, the second stage of the talks is expected to take place around August or September this year. This is what happened, Şuay Hocam, in Geneva. So nothing happened, nothing achieved, and the Turkish side put the two equal states, sovereign, to be established in Cyprus, and they stand still on their theory in Geneva. Şuay Hocam.
Ata hocam, thanks for the answer and all of the presentation. And once more, I would like to thank you on behalf of my students and myself to accept our invitation to our class. Inshallah, in the upcoming weeks, again, when you have time, we would be very happy to host you again to discuss much more actively participate with my students too. You honored us. Thank you for coming again. Hope to see you in upcoming weeks.
Thank you very much, Şuay hocam. I am very much honored to address your students, and I hope they get something from the Cyprus issue, my report, my presentation. Actually, I would be happy to present this outstanding students, the remaining 48 presentations, so that they will understand the Cyprus issue perfectly well. Because all of their life, they will use this information and more, because the Cyprus issue will continue probably a further 10 or 15 years more.
Thank you, hocam. I will arrange another extra class.
Thank you very much. I would be honored to address you. Herkese iyi bayramlar diliyorum, iyi haftalar diliyorum. Hoşça kalın.
Bayramlar hocam, sevgiler, saygılar hocam bizden.
Kıbrıs'tan size sevgilerimi iletiyorum. İyi günler
hocam.
diliyorum.
Sağ olun. Arkadaşlar, Türk Dış Politikası ders öğrencileri kalsın. Diğer arkadaşlarımız çıkabilir.
İyi dersler diliyorum hocam.
Sağ olun hocam. Çok teşekkürler. İyi toplantılar.
Ben teşekkür ederim.